Hey everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube station. Today I'm actually recording from my room because yesterday I did Zumba for the first time in 3 months, and today I've woken up with the most sorest body imagined. My back is killing me. I've just popped some Panadol and hoping that it starts to work, but I'm kind of like taking it easy today, and I'm supposed to have another class tomorrow, and I'm not even sure if I can do it. So what am I talking about today? Today I am talking about Party Plan. So I'm going to talk to you about my experience with Party Plan and also my experience with direct selling. So there is a difference between the two. So Party Plan is where they expect you to go out and do parties to make a certain amount of sales. Whereas direct selling is you can sell it in your own time. There isn't that much pressure, and also it's like so much easier. So I will tell you a bit about my experience, and I hope it doesn't put you off. However, I feel like it's necessary to tell people about what I went through and what I feel is like better. You don't have to take my opinions on board. It's just my point of view. So I did a party plan. Going back now, how old is my son? He's 7. So yeah, it's been 7 years. Jeez, that flew. And this particular party plan, which I will not mention names, basically left me with a sour taste in my mouth. When I first started with this party plan, I was like just really happy because like I just love the products. It was exciting. I felt like that, this is something I could do. I was pregnant with my son at the time, and I really wanted to do something where I could still make money and also be able to, still be pregnant and work, basically. So when I started with this party plan, I didn't really know what to kind of expect. All I knew is that I just wanted to do it. A lot of my friends, they were like, I don't think you're going to do that well. Just keep in mind out, that you might not be successful. In actual fact, I was quite the opposite. I was actually quite successful in what I did. When I started, I had no goal in mind. I didn't really think about being a manager at the time. All I just wanted to do was to make extra money. So I knew that my child to be born was going to have everything that he needed. So fast forwarding, I started doing my first couple of parties, and I didn't really do that well. And after my first 3 parties, I bombed out. Like I couldn't find anyone to book a party with me. I was like, what am I going to do? My friends, my family, some of them were supportive, some didn't want to do parties with me, some just bought stuff. So I'm like, I need to think of ways to obviously, sell. What they didn't tell you when I joined this particular party plan was that you needed to have a certain amount of sales to pay off your kit, which I didn't know that. And so I was actually quite lucky that the parties that I did have actually paid off my kit. So that was kind of like a huge relief. A lot of people who start end up having to pay their kit, taking a lot longer because their parties haven't been huge in sales, and kind of puts a lot of pressure on the person to perform. This particular party plan, when I joined, I should have done some research about it, but at the time, being pregnant, hormonal, I didn't really think about it. So what I began to notice as time went on is that this particular party plan had a very cult-like culture. I'm not saying they are a cult, but they had a very low culture. So it was you celebrating your successes, but not talking about your failures. You were not allowed to talk about why you weren't doing well. As soon as you mentioned that you weren't doing well, they basically shut you up. Anytime you had some sort of like queries or concerns, or you knew that you were struggling, they didn't want to talk about it. I didn't like this at all. I found it to be very, very sad that they only supported you if you made money. And I understand that companies need to make money, but this was beyond the joke. This was so money orientated that it was ridiculous. So every week we would have a meeting on a Monday night at their head office, and every week they would make people stand up, and you had to tell the whole audience how much money you made. So they would start with a countdown saying from 1,000 onwards. So it'll go, everyone who's made $1,000 this week, stand up. Everyone's made $2,000. But as you went up, obviously, if you didn't make those sales, you had to sit back down. So say I made $1,000, but the next person next to me made $2,000, so I had to sit down. And then gradually, as the numbers increased and you got called up onto stage and you were gifted whatever they gifted you. What I didn't like about that was I didn't feel like it was anyone's business how much money I made. I didn't want people to actually know what my sales were for the week. I'm thinking, what for? Why do people need to know? Yeah, it motivates people to obviously make sales. That's what they're aiming for. But personally, myself, I prefer to keep my business. The other thing I didn't like was, say you made $1,000 for that week, you were gifted, as an example, a salad bowl. A salad bowl that probably cost $2 to be made in China, to be completely honest. So I make $1,000 and I get a bowl. Whoopie-doo. Look, I did earn some really good prizes. Don't get me wrong. I won a little mini TV. I won a lot of kitchen appliances and things like that. However, it still wasn't adding up to the amount of money that I was making. The other thing that I didn't like is when you made a certain amount of money, you're like, great, I finally have some profit. I can actually, put some money in my pocket. That week, Monday night, at head office, they would relaunch their monthly specials. And it was kind of like you were forced to buy. They would give you a list right in front of you, like each person got one. So say there's like 500 people in a room, everyone got that list, and it was like you were made to buy those products. It was like drilled into your head. I feel like the psychology that went behind this, I mean, they were pretty smart the way they went about it, don't get me wrong. However, I felt that it was kind of brainwashing. And I started getting a bit annoyed. And I started to get frustrated. All I wanted to do was just sell and be left alone. If you went to another manager and asked for advice, you were told to zip. If you had a concern about something particular, you were told to zip. So basically, you couldn't talk about anything that was bad. Everything had to be beautiful, sun shining, rainbows. Didn't like it. A lot of people were struggling, and yet we couldn't talk about it. As time went on, I kind of felt like I was getting mocked by the owners of the distributorship, and I felt like I was kind of being bullied in a way. And people were coming up to me and saying to me, like, hey, you okay? I don't like the way they spoke to you. And I'm just like, look, brush it under the rug. I just couldn't be bothered. You know, I'm pregnant, I'm tired, I just want to go home. A lot of the meetings started at, say, 7. Some nights, on some weeknights that we had those meetings, we wouldn't get out till about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And on a really big night of a new release, sometimes you wouldn't get home till midnight. Stupid me, even though I was dissatisfied, wanted to be a manager. I was doing really well with sales. I was probably averaging about 5 parties a week, and on a really good week I was probably averaging about 13 parties a week. So I was just like never home. When I had my son and he was born, I started to feel really guilty about not being home, but I knew I had to do it to make money, because at the time my partner not working, and the only income we were getting is from unemployment benefits. So it wasn't enough to cover rent and bills, plus of course you have a newborn, so it's like nappies, baby formula, all those sort of things. So I put pressure on myself to do more parties. At the time I was also suffering postnatal depression. So here I am working, got a newborn child, doing crazy amount of parties, never home, feeling shit because I wasn't there to be full-time mum. Wasn't happy. But yeah, I still wanted to be a manager. How stupid is that? Because in my mind, I thought if I want to be a manager, I would get the company car, I'd have more income, and then hopefully if my team made more money, I could cut back on parties and focus on my child. Okay, so I did become manager, and about 2 weeks after I became manager, I started noticing I wasn't feeling really well. I was feeling quite nauseated. I was having anxiety attacks. I was feeling like I was going to throw up. And I found out I was pregnant. So I was 6 weeks pregnant with my daughter, and I had no idea I was actually pregnant. Because I was so busy actually working, I didn't even realize I'd missed my period. So my daughter's pregnancy was very different to my son's. So with my son, I was just nauseated, not much vomiting. But with my daughter, I was pretty much vomiting every day for the whole 9 months. And I'm like, crap. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm like, I am now pregnant, but I'm getting night sickness, not morning sickness. So when it come to a certain time of the night, so pretty much any time after 7 p.m, I was vomiting. So much fun. Gotta love my daughter. God bless her soul. Anyhow, so I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't do this. I can't physically be doing 5 or 6 parties a week. I didn't have any energy whatsoever. I was completely depleted in my iron levels because my daughter took all my iron. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'd qualified for a trip, and this particular trip was in a very hot area of Australia where it's like 40 degrees in summer almost every day. And they wanted me to go on this trip pregnant, alone, wear a business suit in 40-degree weather. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to go on this trip. No. So I thought about it, and I thought, what am I going to do? So I decided to message my manager and said to her, look, I want to cut back on parties just until I start getting over this morning sickness. The minute I said that, and the minute the owners of the distributorship found out, they basically shoved me aside. I was no longer a favorite. I was basically left in the dark. So I was really, really upset. And I was told that even though I made the company over $100,000 in a year and a half, that it wasn't enough. And that was it for me. I was done. So I quit. The backlash that followed after I left wasn't nice. I don't want to get into details about it, but it wasn't nice. So I still wanted to work, but I didn't want to do what I was doing all these parties. So I joined a direct selling company. So I will let you know who they are because they were really great. So I joined Fifth Avenue Collection, which was jewelry selling, and I did that for a year and a half. Loved the jewelry, loved the fact that I was making a lot of money. I loved selling the product. I loved the people. Everything was great. I really had no issues with them whatsoever. I was successful. I had a team of girls. I was able to work with both my children. Everything was great. And then I had my nervous breakdown. So I had my nervous breakdown, and obviously I wasn't able to do anything. So after 3 months, I get a phone call from head office, from my manager saying, hey, you need to put in an X amount of sales to keep your team. And I just couldn't do it at the time. And I said, look, don't worry about it. I can't. I've got no money. And also I can't work. There's just no way. So unfortunately, I had to give up Fifth Avenue Collection. But I found direct selling was so much easier. It was do as you please, motivate yourself, and only you really put pressure on you. You didn't have to go to the meetings if you didn't want to. You didn't have to go to the trainings. You didn't have to really do anything you didn't really want to do. Even though they did push it a little bit, but it wasn't like the other party plan where it was just like in your face. So now I do Lip Sense. Ow, sorry guys. My back is really sore. And I've been doing Lip Sense now for 4.5 years. And I also do Young Living, which is essential oils. And I've been doing that now since January. I was doing a other essential oil brand, but I found that the oils with Young Living are a better quality, are more natural, and the company is actually amazing. So what I love about direct selling is that even though when I'm not well and I'm not feeling the best, I can still do sales. A lot of the time I will get a message from my client saying, hey, I want to order X amount, and I make a sale. I'm not like doing it full on where I'm contacting customers constantly and messaging them. I'll probably message them once a month, or if there's a new release that a particular client will like those colors, then I will message them. However, I'm not being forceful or pushy, because when I was with the other company, Party Plan, I became someone I didn't like. I was becoming pushy. I was becoming greedy. I was becoming rude. I felt like I was using people, and that's just not who I am as a person. I'm not that type of person. I don't like pushing people, and I don't want to think that every time I see a friend or a relative that I'm going to push these products onto them, because that's what was happening, because the culture of that business was to be pushy. And I promised myself I wouldn't be like that when I first joined the company, because I could see what other managers were doing, but they kind of pushed you and you ended up like that. And I was actually really disappointed in myself, because I'm a very carefree person. I'm very free-spirited, and I really don't like to be told what to do and how to do things. So now with direct selling, I do as I please. I do attend some meetings when I can. I love it because I have the freedom to do what I want to do. I don't have managers messaging me saying, hey, like, what sales have you made this week? Or why haven't you made sales? Or why were your sales this much? Can't make people buy. That's the thing. I mean, look, some of my parties, I had great parties. Most of them were over $1,000. You know, most parties I was averaging about $1,500 in sales. And I was earning half of that. But there were weeks and some parties where people don't want to buy, or they've been to their friends' parties and they've bought what they've needed, but yet that wasn't good enough. So now I order stock when I want to order stock. I wear the stock every day. So like today, I've got a full face of Synergence makeup. I'm also wearing my essential oils, which obviously you can't see because they're on my skin. But I wear them every single day. And they help with my anxiety. I absolutely love the products. I diffuse them. I put them on my children. It's probably like the best things that I've done. So having the two in my life has really given me a balance. So the makeup side of me is the creative side of me, and the essential oils is the spiritual side of me. So I find I get that yin and yang balance. So it actually makes me feel a lot happier. So for those who do have questions, please leave comments below if you have any questions or queries about Party Plan or direct selling. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to talk about my experiences and what I went through. And that I hope this kind of gives you a kind of guide to what might suit you. Some people do really well with Party Plan. Don't get me wrong. There are people who make, millions of dollars. And then there's ones that kind of really, really struggle. But I find the people at the top, once they start making money, it's really harder for the ones down the bottom to kind of get on top. Whereas with direct selling, even though I have my uplines and they have their uplines, I'm not feeling inferior. I'm feeling like I'm one of them and we're all on the same page. And even though they are making lots of money, they're happy doing what they're doing and I'm happy to do what I'm doing. So that's what I really like about it. So I hope this has inspired you and give you some information of what you might need in going forward if you are thinking of joining a Party Plan or direct selling. I do highly recommend direct selling to like anyone who is either a part-time or full-time mum, or someone who's looking to do something on a side biz, because it is quite flexible and there is no pressure. So I hope that's helped you all, and I really hope that I've given you some really vital information. So see you guys.